Jin-Ho stood at the edge of the grand ballroom, his eyes scanning every corner, every shadow, every face. His hand rested near his weapon, hidden under his formal jacket. This was his job. Watch. Wait. Protect. Nothing more. The Valoran Palace was beautiful in a way that Earth buildings could never be. The walls seemed to glow with their own light, soft and purple like twilight. Strange music filled the air, sounds that Jin-Ho had never heard before coming to this alien world. Dozens of Velorans moved through the room in elegant clothes that changed colors as they walked. They were tall, much taller than humans, with pale skin that had a slight blue tint and eyes that were too large and too bright. Jin-Ho was here to protect the human ambassadors. They were trying to make a trade deal with the Veloran Empire. His job was simple. Keep them alive, keep them safe, and don't get involved in politics. He had done this work for 5 years now, ever since leaving Earth's military. Different planets, different aliens, same job. You look uncomfortable. The voice came from behind him. Jin-Ho turned quickly, his hand moving toward his weapon before he stopped himself. A young Veloran woman stood there, smiling at him. She wore a dress that sparkled like stars, and on her head sat a small silver crown. A princess. Jin-Ho recognized the symbol. "I'm fine, Your Highness," Jin-Ho said, bowing slightly the way he had been taught. "Just doing my job." The princess tilted her head, studying him with curious eyes. "I've never met a human before. Not in person. Only in videos and pictures. You're shorter than I expected." Jin-Ho almost smiled. Most aliens said that. Humans were usually smaller, weaker, slower than other species. It was why many people thought humans shouldn't be in space at all. But humans had one advantage. They were too stubborn to quit. "We get that a lot," Jin-Ho said. "I'm HFY, the princess said. She stepped closer, ignoring the proper distance that should exist between royalty and a hired guard. "What's your name?" "Jin-Ho, Your Highness." "Just Jin-Ho?" HFY smiled. "No fancy title? No family name that goes on forever?" "Just Jin-Ho," he confirmed. "On Earth, we keep names simple." HFY's eyes brightened with interest. "Tell me about Earth. What's it like? I've seen pictures. But pictures don't tell you what a place feels like." Jin-Ho hesitated. He wasn't supposed to have conversations with the royal family. He was supposed to stay invisible, professional, detached. But something about HFY's genuine curiosity made him answer. "Earth is crowded," Jin-Ho said. "Loud. Chaotic. We have hundreds of countries, thousands of cultures, millions of opinions. Everyone arguing about everything. All the time." "That sounds exhausting," HFY said. "It is," Jin-Ho admitted. "But it's also alive. Real. Honest." HFY moved to stand beside him, looking out at the ballroom. "Velora is peaceful. Orderly. Everyone knows their place. We've had the same royal family for 3,000 years. No wars, no chaos, no arguments." She paused. "Sometimes I think it's too peaceful. Like we're all asleep." Jin-Ho said nothing. That was definitely politics, and he wanted no part of it. "Can I ask you something?" HFY said. "Why do humans always fight? I've studied your history. You're smaller and weaker than most species. But you never run away. Why? Why not flee when you're outmatched?" Jin-Ho thought about that question. He had asked himself the same thing many times, especially during his military service. He had seen humans do impossible things, survive impossible situations, win impossible fights, all because they refused to give up. "Because some things are worth protecting," Jin-Ho said finally. "And running away means living with the knowledge that you could have done something. That's worse than any wound." HFY stared at him for a long moment. "That's beautiful," she whispered. "And terrifying." Before Jin-Ho could respond, a tall Veloran in military armor approached. He bowed to Haewon, his face cold and professional. Princess, your mother the queen requests your presence. You should not be speaking with the human guards. Haewon's face hardened. General Taesung, I'll speak with whoever I wish. And, two, of course, Princess, Taesung said, but his eyes were sharp. He looked at Jinho with clear contempt. But your safety requires proper protocols. Jinho kept his face neutral, but he watched Taesung carefully. Something felt wrong. The general's hand rested on his weapon. His body was too tense, and his eyes kept darting around the room like he was looking for something, or someone. Haewon sighed, and gave Jinho a small smile. Stay safe, Your Highness, Jinho said. As Haewon walked away with General Taesung, Jinho noticed something strange. 3 of the guards who were supposed to be protecting the princess were watching her with cold eyes. Their hands were near their weapons. Their positions were wrong. Too spread out. Too ready. These were not the positions of guards protecting someone. These were the positions of guards preparing to attack. Jinho's instincts screamed at him. Something was very wrong. For the next hour, Jinho watched. He saw General Taesung speaking quietly with several nobles in dark corners. He saw money changing hands. He saw the guards around Haewon shifting positions, creating gaps in her protection. He saw all the signs of a conspiracy. When Jinho reported his concerns to his commander, the human official laughed. You think the royal guards are planning to hurt their own princess? Jinho, you're paranoid. The Valorans have been peaceful for thousands of years. They don't assassinate each other. I know what I saw, Jinho insisted. You saw nervous guards at a formal event, his commander said. Drop it. We're here to make money, not start an intergalactic incident. Humans accusing Valoran royalty of treason? That's a good way to get us all kicked off this planet. Jinho wanted to argue, but orders were orders. He went back to his position, but his eyes never left Haewon. She moved through the crowd, smiling and laughing, completely unaware of the danger around her. 3 days later, Jinho's assignment changed. He was ordered to guard a trade convoy leaving the capital city. It was a routine job, boring and safe, far away from the royal palace. Jinho protested, but his commander was firm. The decision was made. On his last day in the capital, Jinho saw Haewon one final time. She was walking through the palace gardens, surrounded by her guards. The same guards that Jinho didn't trust. She looked up and saw him watching from a distance. She raised her hand and waved, her smile bright and innocent. Jinho waved back, a cold feeling settling in his stomach. He wanted to run to her, to warn her, to do something. But he had no proof, no authority, no right to interfere. He was just hired help, as General Taesung had said, nothing more. As Jinho boarded the transport that would take him away from the capital, he looked back at the palace one last time. Somewhere in that beautiful, glowing building, a princess who believed in peace was surrounded by people planning her death. Jinho turned away and closed his eyes. It wasn't his problem. It wasn't his mission. He had done his job. He had reported what he saw. What happened next was out of his hands. But even as he told himself these things, Jinho knew he wouldn't be able to forget Haewon's smile. Or the question she had asked him. Why do humans fight instead of flee? Jinho had given her an answer. Now he wondered if he would have to prove it. The news hit like a bomb. Jinho was at a small trading post 3 days away from the capital when he heard it. The broadcast showed shaky footage of burning vehicles and bodies scattered across a mountain road. The reporter's voice was urgent, afraid. Princess Haewon's convoy was attacked this morning while traveling to the Temple of Sacred Light. All of her guards are dead. The princess has been taken hostage by terrorists, calling themselves the Valoran Purity Movement. They demand the queen resign and leave Valora. If any military forces approach, they will kill the princess. Jinho stared at the screen, his hands clenching into fists. He had known. He had seen the signs. He had reported it. And no one had listened. The other humans in the trading post were talking nervously. "Poor girl," one said, "but it's not our problem. Let the Valorans handle it." "We should leave the planet," another said. "This kind of political mess is dangerous for humans." "We could get caught in the middle." Jinho said nothing. He walked to his small room and packed his few belongings. His contract was finished. His assignment was done. He could leave right now, get on a ship, and never look back. That's what a smart person would do. But Jinho kept seeing Hei-Wan's smile. Kept hearing her question. Why do humans fight instead of flee? Because some things are worth protecting. Jinho made his decision. He stole a fast transport from the trading post and flew toward the coordinates mentioned in the terrorist broadcast. He knew he was probably going to die. He knew no one would help him. He knew this was the stupidest thing he had ever done. But he also knew he couldn't live with himself if he ran away. It took Jinho 8 hours to track the terrorists to an abandoned mining facility deep in the Valoran wilderness. The place was surrounded by guards, all heavily armed. Jinho counted at least 30 enemies. He was one man with a pistol and a knife. The smart move was to call for help. But Jinho knew the Queen's military was too slow, too careful. By the time they organized a rescue, Hei-Wan would be dead. Jinho waited until nightfall, then moved in. He killed the first guard silently, taking his rifle and armor. The second guard heard something and turned, but Jinho was faster. 3 guards, 5 guards, 10 guards. Jinho moved through the facility like a shadow, using every trick he had learned in Earth's special forces. The Valorans were stronger and faster, but they weren't trained for this kind of fighting. They expected honor, formal battles, clear rules. Jinho gave them chaos. He used traps, ambushes, and dirty tricks. He turned their own facility against them, but Jinho was getting hurt. A blade cut across his ribs. An energy blast burned his shoulder. He was bleeding, tired, and running on pure adrenaline. Finally, Jinho reached the central chamber. And there, he saw Hei-Wan. The princess was chained to a wall, her face bruised and bloody. Her beautiful dress was torn, but her eyes were still bright, still fierce. When she saw Jinho, her expression shifted from hope to horror. "Jinho," she whispered. "No. No. You shouldn't be here. Run." "Not this time," Jinho said. "How touching." Jinho spun around. General Taesung stepped into the chamber, surrounded by 20 elite soldiers. The general's smile was cold and cruel. "The human guard, here to save the princess. Like something from a children's story." "You planned this," Jinho said, his weapon raised. "The Valoran purity movement doesn't exist. This is your operation." "Very clever," Taesung said. "Yes, I planned this. The Queen is weak. She talks about peace and cooperation with aliens like you. She's making Valora soft. But when her daughter dies at the hands of terrorists, the people will demand war. They'll demand strength, and I'll give it to them." "You'll kill your own princess for power?" Jinho asked. "I'll sacrifice one life to save our civilization," Taesung corrected. "It's necessary. Though I'm surprised you came." "What is she to you?" "You're just a hired guard." Jinho looked at Hei-Wan. Her eyes were filled with tears, but she shook her head, silently begging him not to die for her. "She's someone who deserves to live," Jinho said simply. "That's all the reason I need," Taesung laughed. "Sentimental fool. Kill him." Quote, the soldiers attacked. Jinho fought like a demon. He shot 3 soldiers before his rifle ran out of ammunition. He used his knife to wound 2 more. He grabbed a fallen weapon and fired wildly, hitting another. But there were too many, and they were too fast. A blade stabbed into Jinho's leg. He fell to one knee. Another blade cut across his back. Energy blasts burned holes in his armor. Jinho felt his body breaking, failing, dying. But he didn't stop. That was the thing about humans. Their bodies should quit when damaged. Their minds should shut down from pain. But humans had a strange ability to push past their limits, to ignore what their bodies were telling them, to keep fighting when they should already be dead. Jin-Ho grabbed an explosive charge from a dead soldier's belt. With bloody fingers, he programmed it to overload the facility's reactor. 30 seconds. "You're insane," Taesung shouted. "You'll kill us all." "That's the plan," Jin-Ho gasped. He threw himself toward Hae-won, breaking her chains with the last of his strength. He wrapped his body around hers, shielding her with his own flesh and bone. The facility exploded. Fire and debris filled the chamber. The ceiling collapsed. Walls crumbled. Jin-Ho felt metal and rock tearing into his back, his legs, his arms. He felt bones breaking. He felt his lungs filling with blood. But he held on to Hae-won, using his body as her shield, refusing to let go even as death reached for him. Jin-Ho had 37 wounds when the Valoran rescue team finally arrived. 3 of those wounds were immediately fatal by human medical standards. His left arm was destroyed. His lungs were punctured. His spine was cracked. But somehow, impossibly, Jin-Ho was still alive. The medics couldn't believe it. "How is he breathing?" one asked. "His lungs should have collapsed. Human biology," another medic said in shock. "They can survive injuries that would kill us instantly." Something about adrenaline and willpower. Hae-won was barely hurt. Every wound that should have hit her had been taken by Jin-Ho instead. She knelt beside him as the medics worked, tears streaming down her face. "Why?" she whispered. "Why did you come back? Why did you do this?" Jin-Ho tried to speak, but blood filled his mouth. His vision was fading. He could feel death pulling at him, and this time, there was no fighting it. Worth protecting, Jin-Ho managed to whisper. Then, his eyes closed, and everything went dark. The medics loaded both Jin-Ho and Hae-won onto emergency transports and rushed them back to the royal palace. Behind them, the mining facility burned. General Tae-sung and his conspirators were dead, buried under tons of rubble. As the transport flew through the night sky, one medic monitored Jin-Ho's vital signs and shook his head. "He's dying. Even with our technology, he won't survive the trip." But Hae-won held Jin-Ho's hand and refused to let go. Somehow, against all medical logic, Jin-Ho's heart kept beating. His ruined lungs kept pulling in air. His broken body kept clinging to life. Because humans, as the universe was learning, were very hard to kill. And Jin-Ho had made a promise to protect the princess. He wasn't done yet. Jin-Ho woke to white light and the sound of machines beeping softly. His entire body felt wrong, like it belonged to someone else. Pain pulsed through him with every heartbeat, but it was distant somehow, muffled by medication. He tried to move his left arm and couldn't feel it. When Jin-Ho looked down, he saw metal and synthetic materials where his arm should be. A cybernetic replacement. His chest was wrapped in bandages, and tubes ran into his body, feeding him medicine and nutrients. "You're awake." The voice was calm and powerful. Jin-Ho turned his head, ignoring the spike of pain from his neck, and saw her. Queen Da-un sat in a chair beside his bed, watching him with ancient, knowing eyes. She looked like an older version of Hae-won, elegant and beautiful, but with something harder in her expression. This was someone who had ruled for a very long time. Jin-Ho tried to speak, but his throat was too dry. The queen poured water into a cup and held it to his lips. Jin-Ho drank, surprised that a queen would do such a thing. "How long?" Jin-Ho managed to ask. 3 weeks, Da-un said. "You've been unconscious the entire time. The doctors said you should have died a dozen times. They said no one could survive your injuries, but you kept breathing anyway." End quote. When you connect them, Jin-Ho looked at his ruined body. Hey-1, she's alive because of you, the Queen said. Minor injuries. She healed quickly. She's been here every day, sitting where I sit now, waiting for you to wake up. Jinho felt relief wash over him. It was worth it then. All the pain. All the damage. She was alive. General Tae-sung? Jinho asked. Dead, the Queen said flatly. Along with 20 other conspirators. You destroyed them all when you overloaded the reactor. She paused. The conspiracy was deeper than anyone knew. Half my court was involved. Nobles, military officers, even some of my advisors. They all wanted war. Wanted to purge Valora of alien influence. But with Tae-sung dead, and the evidence you provided, we were able to root them out. Good, Jinho whispered. The Queen leaned forward, her eyes intense. Why did you come back? Your contract was finished. You owed us nothing. You could have left the planet entirely and been safe. Why did you return? Jinho thought about his answer. The truth was simple, even if others wouldn't understand it. She deserved to live, Jinho said. That's all the reason I needed. The Queen stared at him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. I need to explain something to you about Valoran culture. When someone saves another's life, we call it a life debt. The person who was saved owes the person who saved them. It's a sacred bond that can be repaid through service or goods. Jinho nodded. He had heard of similar traditions on other worlds, but what you did goes far beyond a simple life debt, the Queen continued. You died for my daughter. The medical records show your heart stopped twice during the rescue. You were clinically dead. Only human biology brought you back. In Valoran law and tradition, this is called Kaltor. It means shield of the royal blood. It is the highest honor we can give to someone outside our family. I don't want honors, Jinho said. The Queen's expression didn't change. That's not possible. As Kaltor, you belong to the crown now. More specifically, you belong to Hai-1. You will serve as her personal guardian until the debt is satisfied. Jinho's eyes widened. What? No. I did what I did because it was right, not for payment or position. I don't want to be trapped here. You misunderstand. The Queen said, her voice gentle but firm. You died for my daughter. That death belongs to me now. By our laws, by our traditions, by everything we believe. I cannot let you leave. You gave your life to protect royal blood. That life is now royal property, until I say otherwise. That's slavery, Jinho said, anger cutting through his pain. That's honor, the Queen corrected. And it's not negotiable. You're in Valoran space, under Valoran law. My word is absolute here. She stood up, looking down at him. I will not release you. Jinho. Not yet. Perhaps not ever. You will remain on Valora as my daughter's guardian. Before Jinho could respond, the Queen left. A moment later, the door opened again, and Hai-1 rushed in. The princess looked different. Thinner. Tired. Her eyes were red from crying. When she saw Jinho awake, she ran to his bedside and grabbed his remaining hand. Tears streaming down her face. You're awake, she sobbed. I thought you'd never wake up, the doctors said. I'm okay, Jinho lied. He was far from okay, but he didn't want to upset her more. You saved me, Hai-1 said. You came back when you didn't have to. You fought 30 soldiers alone. You died for me. She looked at his cybernetic arm, his bandaged body, his scarred face. Look what it cost you. Worth it, Jinho said simply. Hai-1 shook her head. How can you say that? Look at what you've lost. Your arm, your health, your freedom. My mother told you about the decree. Didn't she? You're trapped here now because of me. Not because of you, Jinho said. Because I chose to come back. My choice. My consequences. But why? Haewon asked desperately. I barely knew you. We spoke for 10 minutes at a party. Why would you sacrifice everything for me? Why? Jinho remembered that conversation in the ballroom. He remembered her curiosity, her kindness, her genuine interest in understanding humans. He remembered thinking that she was someone who saw people as people, not as servants or tools. You asked me why humans fight instead of run, Jinho said. I told you some things are worth protecting. You were one of those things. Haewon cried harder. I don't deserve this. I don't deserve you nearly dying for me. Deserving has nothing to do with it, Jinho said. You needed help. I could give it. That's enough. Over the next few days, as Jinho recovered, he learned more about his new situation. He was now officially Prince Consort, Jinho, Shield of Velora. He had a title, a position, a room in the royal palace. He was given new armor, new weapons, and authority over the royal guard. But he was also a prisoner. He couldn't leave Velora without the Queen's permission. He couldn't refuse assignments. He was bound by laws and traditions that he didn't fully understand. The other humans who worked in the embassy came to visit him. They didn't know what to say. Some congratulated him on his promotion. Others looked at him with pity, understanding that he was trapped. You could try to escape, one friend suggested quietly. Steal a ship. Get off this planet. Jinho thought about it. He could probably do it. But where would he go? Back to Earth? He'd be a fugitive, hunted by an entire empire, and more importantly, it would dishonor everything he had done. It would make his sacrifice meaningless. No, Jinho said. I'll stay. I made my choice. I'll live with it. Jinho, Haewon visited him every day. She brought him food, read to him, told him stories about Veloran history and culture. She was trying to make his imprisonment more comfortable, but Jinho could see the guilt in her eyes. Stop blaming yourself, Jinho told her one evening. I don't regret what I did. You should, Haewon said quietly. You gave up your whole life for me. Maybe I needed a new life, Jinho said. He wasn't sure if that was true, but it made Haewon smile a little. The Queen visited again a week later. Jinho was out of bed now, learning to use his new cybernetic arm. It was strange, foreign, but functional. How are you adjusting? The Queen asked. As well as can be expected for a prisoner, Jinho said bluntly. The Queen smiled slightly. You saved my daughter's life. You exposed a conspiracy that would have destroyed my empire. You proved that humans are capable of honor and sacrifice. For all of that, I am grateful. Why? Jinho demanded. The debt is paid. I saved her. What more do you want? The Queen looked at him with those ancient eyes. I want you to teach my daughter what it means to truly care about something beyond yourself. I want you to show her that loyalty isn't just tradition and law, but a choice made from the heart. And I want you to stay alive, because my daughter has already lost too much. She barely knows me, Jinho said. Then you'll have time to change that, the Queen replied. Accept your fate, Shield of Velora. This is your life now. As the Queen left, Jinho looked out the window at the alien sky. Somewhere up there, beyond the purple clouds and strange stars, was Earth, his home, his past. But when Haewon arrived for her daily visit, Jinho found himself smiling despite everything. Maybe the Queen was right. Maybe this was his life now. He wasn't happy about it, but he could survive it. Humans were good at surviving impossible situations. Ready for your Veloran language lesson? Haewon asked cheerfully. Do I have a choice? Jinho asked. No, Haewon said with a grin. None at all. Jinho sighed and sat down. Then let's get started. 6 months passed, like water through Jinho's fingers. He learned to live in the palace, learned Veloran customs and language, learned to move with his new cybernetic arm, as naturally as his old one. He trained the royal guards in human combat tactics, teaching them that sometimes the smartest move wasn't the honorable one. Some guards respected him. Others hated him for being an outsider in a sacred position. Jinho didn't care what they thought. He had a job: protect Haewon. Everything else was just noise. But Haewon refused to make it easy. She didn't treat him like a guard or a servant. She insisted he eat meals with her, study with her, attend her appointments, and ceremonies. She taught him about Velaran art and philosophy. She showed him the palace gardens at dawn when the flowers glowed. She made him laugh with stories about silly court nobles. Slowly, despite his best efforts to stay professional, Jinho began to actually enjoy her company. "You're smiling," Haewon said one morning as they walked through the gardens. "That's new. For the first 3 months, you looked angry all the time." "I wasn't angry," Jinho said. "I was focused." "You were angry," Haewon insisted. "Angry at my mother for trapping you. Angry at me for being the reason you're trapped. Angry at yourself for caring about us anyway." Jinho stopped walking and looked at her. "You're very perceptive. I've spent 6 months watching you every day," Haewon said. "I've learned to read your expressions. You have a face for when you're scanning for threats, a face for when you're annoyed at court ceremonies, and a face for when you're actually happy. That last one is rare, but it's beautiful." Jinho felt his cheeks warm. He wasn't used to compliments, especially not from alien princesses. "You shouldn't say things like that," Jinho said. "Why not?" Haewon asked. "Is it against human customs to tell someone they look nice when they smile?" "It's against professional customs," Jinho said. "I'm your guard, not your friend." Haewon's face fell. "Is that really how you see this? As just a job?" Jinho wanted to say yes. He wanted to keep that distance, that barrier between duty and emotion. But he couldn't lie to her. Not when she looked at him with such hurt in her eyes. "No," Jinho admitted. "It stopped being just a job a while ago. That's the problem." "Why is caring about someone a problem?" Haewon asked. Before Jinho could answer, a loud voice interrupted them. "Princess Haewon," a Valoran officer strode toward them, his armor gleaming in the morning light. He was tall even for a Valoran, with sharp features and cold eyes. Jinho recognized him. Commander Dongmin, one of the highest-ranking officers in the royal military. He was also one of the nobles, who made it clear he hated humans. "Commander," Haewon said, her tone formal and cool. "What brings you to the gardens?" "I came to speak with you about an important matter," Dongmin said. He looked at Jinho with contempt. "Privately." "Anything you say to me can be said in front of Jinho," Haewon said firmly. Dongmin's jaw tightened. "Very well. I am formally requesting your consideration for marriage." Jinho felt something cold settle in his stomach. Haewon's eyes widened in surprise. "Commander, I'm honored," Haewon said carefully. "But I'm not ready to consider marriage to anyone." "Why not?" Dongmin demanded. "I am of proper rank, proper breeding, and proper blood. I would strengthen your position in court and provide strong heirs. What more could you want?" "Respect, for one thing," Haewon said, her voice sharp. "You speak of me like I'm a prize to be won, not a person." Dongmin's eyes flashed with anger. "I speak practically, as royalty should. You're the third daughter. Your position is weak. You need a powerful husband. Instead, you waste your time with this human pet." Jinho's hand moved toward his weapon, but Haewon stepped between them. "Jinho is not a pet," Haewon said dangerously. "He's Kaltor, shield of the royal blood. He has more honor in one finger than you have in your entire body." "Honor?" Dongmin laughed harshly. "He's a human. They're weak, small, and barely civilized. He only has his position because he got lucky. Any real Velaran warrior could have done what he did." "Then prove it," Jinho said quietly. Dongmin turned to him, surprised. What? You think I'm weak, Jinho said. You think I don't deserve my position. Prove it. Challenge me. Valoran tradition allows for duels, doesn't it? Haewon grabbed Jinho's arm. Don't. He's faster and stronger than you. It's not a fair fight. Life isn't fair, Jinho said. I learned that a long time ago. Dongmin's smile was vicious. I accept. Tomorrow at dawn, in the arena. Combat until one of us yields. No weapons. Just hand-to-hand combat. When I defeat you, everyone will see that humans don't belong among Valoran nobility. We'll see, Jinho said. That evening, Haewon tried to convince Jinho to cancel the duel. Dongmin is a trained warrior from a military family. He's been fighting his whole life. You'll be hurt, maybe killed. I've faced worse odds, Jinho reminded her. I fought 30 soldiers and survived. Barely survived, Haewon said. And you were lucky. Jinho, please, don't do this. Not for me. I'm not doing it for you, Jinho said. I'm doing it because men like Dongmin need to learn that humans aren't weak, and because I'm tired of being treated like I don't belong here. You do belong here, Haewon said softly. At least, I want you to. Jinho looked at her and saw something in her eyes that made his heart beat faster. But he pushed the feeling away. He couldn't let emotions distract him. Not now. The next morning, the entire royal court gathered in the arena. Jinho stood in the center, wearing simple training clothes. Across from him, Dongmin stood in full combat stance, his muscles ready, his expression confident. The queen watched from her throne, her face unreadable. Haewon sat beside her, looking terrified. Begin, the queen declared. Dongmin attacked immediately, faster than Jinho expected. A punch aimed at his face. Jinho barely dodged. A kick toward his ribs. Jinho blocked. But the impact sent pain shooting through his arm. Dongmin was stronger, faster, and had longer reach. For 3 minutes, Jinho could only defend, dodging and blocking, while Dongmin pressed his advantage. The crowd murmured. Some laughed. The human was losing. But Jinho was learning. He studied Dongmin's patterns, his rhythm, his tells. Valorans fought with pride and honor, which meant they were predictable. They followed forms and traditions, even in combat. Humans didn't. The next time Dongmin attacked, Jinho didn't block. He took the hit on purpose, letting Dongmin's fist slam into his shoulder. The pain was intense, but it gave Jinho an opening. He grabbed Dongmin's extended arm and twisted, using the Valoran's own momentum against him. Dongmin stumbled, surprised. Jinho pressed his advantage, using every dirty trick he knew. He kicked at Dongmin's knees, jabbed at pressure points, used his smaller size to move in close where Dongmin's long reach was a disadvantage. The fight became brutal. Both fighters were bleeding, exhausted, and hurting. But while Dongmin grew frustrated and sloppy, Jinho stayed focused. Pain was just information. Exhaustion was just a feeling. All that mattered was winning. Finally, after 20 minutes of combat, Dongmin made a mistake. He overextended on a punch, leaving his balance off. Jinho swept his legs out from under him and pinned him to the ground, his forearm across Dongmin's throat. Yield, Jinho said. Dongmin struggled, but Jinho's position was perfect. The commander couldn't break free without hurting himself. The crowd was silent, shocked. Yield, Jinho repeated. I yield, Dongmin finally gasped. Jinho released him and stood up. His body screamed in protest, but he kept his face neutral. He had won. Against all odds, the human had won. The queen stood. The duel is complete. Jinho, Shield of Valora, is victorious. Let no one question his position again. That evening, Haewon came to Jinho's room to treat his injuries. She worked in silence, cleaning cuts and wrapping bruises. Jin-Ho could see tears in her eyes. "You could have died," she finally said. "Again. For the second time since I met you. Do you have any idea what that does to me?" "I'm sorry," Jin-Ho said. "Don't be sorry," Hae-won said. "Just promise me you'll stop risking your life." "I can't promise that," Jin-Ho said honestly. "It's my job to protect you. That means putting myself in danger." Hae-won looked up at him, and Jin-Ho saw something fierce in her eyes. "What if I ordered you not to? What if I, as your princess, commanded you to value your own life?" "Then I'd have to disobey," Jin-Ho said. "Because some things are more important than orders." "Like what?" Hae-won whispered. Jin-Ho reached out and touched her face gently. "Like you." Hae-won's breath caught. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Then Hae-won leaned forward and kissed him. It was gentle, careful, and over too quickly. When she pulled back, Hae-won looked scared. "I'm sorry," she said. "I shouldn't have. You're my guard. And I'm a princess. And this is impossible." "Yeah," Jin-Ho agreed. "Completely impossible." Then he kissed her back. Outside the window, Queen Da-eun watched from a balcony. She had seen the kiss. Seen the way her daughter looked at the human. She smiled slightly. Everything was going exactly as planned. Jin-Ho stood on the palace balcony, looking up at the night sky. Somewhere beyond those stars was Earth, his home world. A place he would probably never see again. "You're thinking about leaving." Jin-Ho turned to find Queen Da-eun standing behind him. She moved quietly for someone so powerful. "I'm always thinking about leaving," Jin-Ho admitted. "That doesn't mean I will. I'm Nosto.com. The Queen joined him at the railing. "I'm going to offer you something. Your freedom. The life debt is satisfied. You saved Hae-won's life, exposed a conspiracy, and served honorably for 8 months. I'm releasing you from your bond. You can return to Earth if you wish." Jin-Ho's heart jumped. Freedom. He could go home. He could see his family again. Walk on Earth soil. Breathe Earth air. Everything he had wanted since being trapped here. "Why now?" Jin-Ho asked. "Because I need to know if you're staying for the right reasons," the Queen said. "Hae-won is in love with you. I've seen it. The whole court has seen it. But I need to know if you feel the same, or if you're just making the best of a bad situation." Jin-Ho thought about Hae-won. Her smile. Her laugh. The way she looked at him like he was someone special. Not just a hired guard. The way she made him feel like he belonged somewhere. "I don't know," Jin-Ho said honestly. "I care about her. More than I should. But this wasn't supposed to be my life. I was supposed to do my job and move on. I never planned on staying on an alien world forever." "No one plans their future," the Queen said. "We make choices, and those choices make us. So choose, Jin-Ho. Earth or Valora. Freedom or family. What do you want?" Jin-Ho opened his mouth to answer. But alarms suddenly blared throughout the palace. Red lights flashed. Guards ran toward defensive positions. "What's happening?" Jin-Ho demanded. A guard rushed up to the Queen. "Your Majesty, we're under attack. Armed militants have breached the lower palace. They're heading toward Princess Hae-won's chambers." Jin-Ho didn't wait for orders. He ran. His cybernetic arm grabbed his weapon from a storage locker as he passed. His enhanced legs, rebuilt after the mining facility explosion, carried him faster than any normal human could run. He had been changed, modified, improved by Valoran technology. He was no longer fully human, but he was still Jin-Ho. He reached Hae-won's chambers just as the attackers burst through the door. 10 of them, heavily armed, wearing masks. Jin-Ho didn't hesitate. He threw himself between them and Hae-won. "Get behind me!" Jin-Ho shouted, but Hae-won didn't hide. She grabbed a ceremonial blade from the wall and took a fighting stance. Jin-Ho recognized the movements. She had been training, learning human combat tactics, learning from him. Together, Hae-won said. Together, Jin-ho agreed. They fought side by side. Jin-ho used his gun until it ran out of ammunition, then switched to hand-to-hand combat. Hae-won was faster and stronger, but Jin-ho was more experienced. They covered each other's weaknesses, supported each other's strengths. 2 attackers down. 4. 6. But Jin-ho was getting tired. His rebuilt body had limits, and he was reaching them. An attacker's blade cut across his ribs. Another's weapon burned his leg. Then Hae-won screamed. One of the attackers had grabbed her from behind, a knife at her throat. "Drop your weapon or she dies," the attacker shouted. Jin-ho froze. Everything slowed down. He saw the fear in Hae-won's eyes, saw the knife pressed against her skin, saw the choice in front of him. He could surrender. Save Hae-won's life, maybe. But Jin-ho had learned something over the past 8 months. Hae-won wasn't helpless. She was strong. She was smart. And she trusted him. Jin-ho met Hae-won's eyes and nodded slightly. Hae-won understood. She stomped on her attacker's foot, twisted her body, and dropped low. The knife missed her throat by inches. In that split second of opening, Jin-ho threw his knife. It hit the attacker in the shoulder, making him release Hae-won. Royal guards burst into the room, finishing off the remaining attackers. It was over. Jin-ho collapsed against the wall, bleeding and exhausted. Hae-won ran to him, checking his wounds. "You're hurt again," she said, tears streaming down her face. "Always hurt. Always bleeding. Always protecting me. Brain. It's what I do." Jin-ho said, with a weak smile. "No," Hae-won said fiercely. "It's who you are. And I love you for it. I love you, Jin-ho. I don't care if it's impossible, if it's forbidden, if the whole court disapproves. I love you." Jin-ho looked at her tear-stained face and knew his answer to the queen's question. He knew what he wanted. "I love you too," Jin-ho said. "That's why I can't stay." Hae-won's face went pale. "What? Oh. What? Oh. You're a princess," Jin-ho said. "You need to marry someone of proper rank. Someone who can strengthen your position. Someone who can give you a future. I'm just a human guard. I have nothing to offer you except more danger and more blood." "You think I care about rank?" Hae-won demanded. "You think I want some noble who sees me as a political tool? You're the only person who has ever treated me like I matter beyond my title." "That doesn't change reality," Jin-ho said. "Your people will never accept a human prince, and I can't ask you to give up your life for me." "You're not asking," Hae-won said. "I'm choosing. Just like you chose to save me. Just like you chose to stay these 8 months. I'm choosing you." Queen Da-yoon's voice came from the doorway. "And I'm choosing to accept that." Both Jin-ho and Hae-won turned to see the queen standing there, watching them. "Mother?" Hae-won said, confused. "This attack was the last of the conspirators," the queen explained. "Commander Dongmin's allies, trying one final attempt to destabilize our family. They're all captured now. The threat is over." She looked at Jin-ho. "What question?" Jin-ho asked. "Whether you love my daughter or just feel obligated to her," the queen said. "You were willing to leave, even though it would break your heart. That's how I know you truly love her. You put her needs above your own desires." The queen walked over to them. "Jin-ho, I'm offering you a choice. Not as a command, but as a genuine option. Return to Earth with my blessing, and a fortune to live comfortably, or stay here as Hae-won's bonded partner, with full status as Veloran royalty." "But the court will never accept it," Jin-ho said. "The court will accept what I tell them to accept," the queen said firmly. "And Hae-won is right. Our empire is stagnating. We need new perspectives, new ideas, new alliances. Humans represent the future. Your people's determination and adaptability are exactly what we need. There's one problem, Jinho said. I'm human. I'll age and die, while HFY lives for centuries. That's not fair to her. We have technology for that, the Queen said. Genetic modification. We can extend your lifespan to match ours. It's painful, it's expensive, and it will change you forever. You'll never be fully human again. But you could live for 300 years. Jinho looked at HFY. You want this? Truly? More than anything, HFY whispered. Jinho thought about Earth, his old life, his human identity, everything he would be giving up. Then he thought about HFY's smile. The way she made him laugh. The way she looked at him like he was her whole world. Some things were worth protecting. Some things were worth fighting for. And some things were worth changing yourself for. I'll stay, Jinho said. Not because I'm trapped. Not because of duty. Because this is where I want to be. HFY threw her arms around him, crying and laughing at the same time. The Queen smiled, satisfied. 3 months later, the palace held a bonding ceremony. It was a blend of human and Valoran traditions, witnessed by representatives from both species. Jinho wore formal Valoran robes with Earth military medals on his chest. HFY wore a dress that sparkled like stars. The genetic modification had been successful. Jinho's DNA was now mixed with Valoran genetics. His lifespan extended. His body enhanced. His very nature changed. He was no longer fully human. But he didn't feel like he had lost anything. He felt like he had gained a new family. As Jinho took his vows, he looked out at the crowd. He saw Queen Daun, watching with approval. He saw Valoran nobles, who once hated him, now showing respect. He saw human ambassadors, smiling. He saw the beginning of something new. Do you accept this bond? The ceremonial priest asked. Do you swear to stand beside Princess HFY in all things? To protect her, honor her, and love her for all your days? I do, Jinho said firmly. And do you, Princess HFY, accept this bond? I do, HFY said, her voice full of joy. Then, by the power of the crown and the will of the people, I declare you bonded for life. Prince Consort Jinho, Shield of Valora, and Princess HFY, third of the royal blood. They kissed as the crowd cheered. Human-Valoran cooperation had begun, symbolized by the bond between a stubborn human guard and the alien princess he had died to protect. That night, Jinho stood on the same balcony where the Queen had offered him freedom. HFY joined him, taking his hand. Do you regret it? She asked. Jinho looked up at the stars. Earth was up there somewhere, distant and unreachable now. He thought about his old life, his old identity, everything he had left behind. No, Jinho said honestly. I came to this world to do a job. I found something better. I found a home. Home. HFY repeated, smiling. I like that. HFY. Home. HFY. HFY. Repeated sighed. Years passed. Jinho and HFY became symbols of the alliance between humans and Valorans. Joint colonies were established. Trade flourished. The two species learned from each other, grew together, built a future together. Jinho trained a new generation of guards, teaching both humans and Valorans his integrated combat style. He became an advisor to the Queen on human affairs. He had children with HFY, miracles of genetic science, who carried both human and Valoran traits. One day, many years later, Jinho received a message from Earth. His old military unit wanted to know if he regretted his choice. If staying on Valora had been worth giving up everything. Jinho stood on the balcony, now holding his young daughter in his arms. HFY stood beside him, her hand on his shoulder. He looked up at Earth in the night sky and thought about his answer. He had come to Valora as a hired guard. He had nearly died protecting a princess he barely knew. He had been trapped by honor and tradition, forced to give up his freedom. But somewhere along the way, the prison had become a home. The duty had become love. The sacrifice had become a gift. Jin-ho smiled and typed his response. I came here to protect a princess. I stayed because I found a reason to live. Queen Da-un appeared beside them on the balcony, watching her grandchild play. Do you regret that I refused to release you? She asked, just like she had years ago. Jin-ho shook his head. You knew what I needed before I did. Thank you for not letting me go. The queen smiled. The debt has been repaid, Shield of Valora. You saved my daughter's life. In return, I saved yours. You were dying inside, lost, and without purpose. I gave you a reason to live. Jin-ho looked at his family, his home, his future. The queen was right. He had been lost, going from job to job, planet to planet, never finding a place where he belonged, until he met a curious alien princess who asked him why humans fought instead of running, until he made the choice to protect something worth protecting, until he learned that sometimes the greatest freedom comes from choosing to stay. Thank you, Jin-ho said to the queen. For everything. Thank you, the queen replied. For showing us that sometimes the strongest bonds are the ones we choose, not the ones we're born into. As the three of them watched the stars together, Jin-ho thought about how strange life was. He had come to this world expecting nothing but another job. Instead, he had found love, family, purpose, and home. He was no longer fully human. No longer fully Valoran. He was something new, something unique, something that represented the future of both species, working together. And he wouldn't change a single thing.